well. And then also no change in the contractual day and no change in the instructional day. But we are going to reorganize at the middle and high school with some time at the beginning of the day to help students get organized and also provide some targeted intervention time for kids in grades 6 through 12. So if you were looking through the middle and high school handbook or the district parent-student handbook, you'll see the middle and high school bell schedule. Still, the late bell's gonna ring at 8 a.m., but then from 8 to 8:30, kids will be in what the middle and high school are calling bulldog time, which is going to be intervention, enrichment, and also an opportunity for teacher teams, course teams to have an opportunity to meet for longer than, say, 30 minutes at the beginning of the day. So we could hold teacher meetings and staff meetings from 7:30 to 8 in the morning, but not much can get accomplished in 30 minutes. So we think we'll be closer to 40 or 45 minutes with the addition of bulldog time. But also, no small point here, we want that to be a time of intervention and enrichment for kids. So we're going to spend some time figuring out what kids need and making sure that they receive that to boost their ability to be successful in the gen ed classroom. So yeah, that's something that we're looking at this year, and hopefully it's going to make a difference in terms of filling instructional gaps for our kids, but also giving teachers a chance and principals a chance to have some meaningful conversations about instruction and look at student data and be prescriptive about those data in the classroom.
So who's going to give the teachers that data, like on what the kids are weak in certain subjects so they can get the help that they need?
So there are a number of assessments that we administer over the course of the school year, not to mention some assessments that are part of different curricula across the district, but it could also be informal assessment too. So as a teacher team, if we make some decisions to do maybe an exit ticket or some other type of informal assessment where we're collecting some general knowledge of where kids are on a standard, then when we meet again as a teacher team, we can talk about, well, this is what I saw in my class, and now what are we going to do about it in terms of prescriptive instruction. Katie, real quick, we have all types of assessments that we could look at those data in teacher teams, but do you want to say a word about probably a phrase that you folks have heard before, benchmark readiness assessments, but also there are some short cycle assessments that we could put to good use in teacher teams too. Mm-hmm. Not to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, so the state for free for the last several years, they used to call them restart readiness assessments when we came back to school after the COVID-19 pandemic. And they were basically assigned or developed to assess whether or not students were ready for what was next. Well, luckily the state has kept those assessments around. They are free, and we do utilize those. There are two different kinds. There's a benchmark, which is kind of a full-length practice test. Kids take that 2 different times during the year. But there are shorter ones called checkpoints. They're like 8 to 10 questions over a particular topic. They're a lot shorter for the kids to take. They don't necessarily mess with curriculum pacing a whole lot because they're pretty short, but those would be really good sources of assessment data for teacher teams to sit down and take a look at. They don't have to develop the assessment. We give it to the kids. It's all online. The results are there immediately. They can compare. They can even drill down to see if it's an open-ended question or multiple choice. They can click through kid by kid and see what kids answered. We've done that in the past, and that has they've discovered a lot of misconceptions that way. So we've got a lot of students that are getting the same wrong answer, or wonder how they're getting to that, or what did they misunderstand about central angles of a circle. Oh, they're doing this other thing. So that has been very valuable. I think that we, unfortunately, this year, middle and high school, didn't really have a whole lot of opportunities for teachers to use those data together. They had them, the kids still took them, but we heard a lot of times, it's great, but I'm not sure, we don't really have time to talk about it. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it. And so this bulldog time would give those teacher teams some time to sit down and take a look at that and make some decisions about instruction. And if they decide, they find something like, gosh, we've got, this, about 15% of our kids are still missing this concept, or they don't have this understanding, they could use that time to then also design activities that kids could complete during that bulldog time in the morning. So if kids are behind on something, that could be additional time that those students are going to be given access to either practice or additional teaching. Does that help? Is that what?
Kinda, I guess I'm slightly confused, so like on Bulldog time, are they is Bulldog time at the classroom, like where their first period takes place?
I'm not 100% sure.
We don't have the scheduling done, but it won't be all the time.
Okay.
Because there might be a group of kids that need intervention in a certain thing, and those students might travel to another teacher's classroom.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I was wondering.
They might
like-
get kind of shuffled up a little bit.
Yes,
Yeah.
because if you're having issues with math and you're, with the different teachers teaching social studies, they're not gonna have that same mindset as to what the kids need help in.
Sure.
So
But even if the
hopefully
math
they're-
teacher's like, oh man, they're struggling with this thing, there's this Khan Academy video and resource, I'm in a meeting, the kids could still participate in something, and they would only be in a meeting one day of the week. So it's not like the math teachers meet every day or the science teachers meet every day. So, yeah, 4 of the 5 days, kids would have access to
that
math
special
teachers.
teacher.
Yep.
Okay.
It's going to take a lot of scheduling work to pull this off, to
Yeah.
make sure that kids are where they need to be, getting the intervention or enrichment that they need. But I think, not to mention, let me start here. The board might recall that there were some comments, suggestions from community members about, hey, let's put some time at the beginning of the day to help kids get organized. And so that's another piece here too, the executive functioning component, just helping kids get organized at the beginning of the day and be prepared for instruction, that they're ready for instruction for the rest of the day. We have talked about a potential drawback here, concerned about the concern being, okay, so are there situations where students' families might say, well, class doesn't start, first period doesn't start until 8:33. Do they really need to be here at 8 o'clock? And our answer to that question is yes, this is school. Because every kid needs something. We're going to either need to push them or fill instructional gaps. So there's check-ins that can happen. All other things being equal, all of the teachers will be available at the same time to support kids too. So I think it's just incumbent on us to be able to do the scheduling that's necessary to help make that happen.
I really want to push that it's instructional time and not getting organized. Because parents need to be teaching their kids too. You need to get organized, like for time management purposes. So if we can really push this as well for instructional time, would be key.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the most important thing. However, there's going to be situations where we're going to deal with what we got on a certain day. And if the kid is a mess and not organized, then we're going to help make that happen so that they can be ready. But I mean, far and away, I agree. I mean, we expect to make some gains and close some gaps here with this strategy. So we think it's worth a shot. So just didn't want those two, certainly the cell phones and all manner of personal communication devices. We've talked about that over the course of several weeks and months. I didn't want the change in the instructional day to slip by without a discussion. One more thing, we have, I think in a previous meeting, we talked about preschool and maybe some changes to the county preschool model. And the county has been able to procure some facility where they think they're going to be able to consolidate. I think we had this discussion once before, where they're going to be able to consolidate all the county preschools. And at one time, we thought that maybe this wasn't going to affect Milton-Union until the following school year, so 26-27. But I think they have a very aggressive goal of trying to make that happen by mid-year of 25-26. So just want to keep that on everybody's radar, because there's certainly a transportation component there and communication with families about the change. So I think, unless there are no questions about those couple of things.
So they would move them mid-year?
That's on the table right now.
Seems difficult.
So it'll be a big job, for sure.
Do you want to elaborate on this new cell phone policy right from the handbook?
So in short, the new cell phone policy is going to be a student may have his or her cell phone because the family wants them to have it on the way to school. Student driver, walking, whatever transportation a student is taking, and certainly the time after school. But once at school, the expectation is that cell phone is going to be powered down and in a student's locker and secured for the entirety of the instructional day. They're not supposed to be on it in between classes. They're not supposed to check it for the time. That's the unsupervised time during passing between classes, lunch. All of that is still prohibited. So powered down and in their locker, and there are some exceptions here if students are tracking health data throughout the day, or if there's something in a 504 plan or an IEP, I can't imagine at this moment what that might be. But if there's some compelling reason why a student needs to have their cell phone during the day, then the principal can make an exception. But in terms of, hey, there's an emergency, or I need to get a message to my student, there's the old-fashioned way, and that is call the office and we'll get a message to the student at some point, as soon as we can during the day. And if a student needs to get a hold of a parent or family member, then there are the telephones in the office as well. So we think we have that covered, so that if a student needs to communicate with a parent or family member, we're going to help make that happen. It's just not going to be using their personal cell phones to do that.
Thank you.
And that would be, smartwatches and anything else that you can use as a mode of communication.
Didn't the state pass legislation that we had to do this as well?
There is I don't know if they passed the no cell phones at all yet. Have they passed that? I don't.
That's still forward.
I know there was certainly there was, you have to, if you don't have a cell phone policy, you have to have one, which we did. But we had talked at one time about how much disruptive behavior was a result of cell phone use during the day. Unkind messages sent to other students, images that were really inappropriate for school being shown by students to other students. So it's just a lot of things that, we can't even probably think about all the examples in this moment, but that are disruptive to the school process. And then our administrators, particularly at the middle and high school, are chasing the discipline down for a good part of the day as a result of something that happened because of use of a cell phone.
Can parents communicate with kids via email?
They can. So that's a great point. Yep. They have a district email. Every student has a district email. We try to encourage the professional use of email. I think sometimes our students not a lot of experience with email, so it's probably good that they get that experience before they go into the work world or college, because that's still the main means of communication for business and higher ed.
Floor.
You ready?
Nick, can you go to the board? So it's the time of year where we kind of get that end of year look back on the effectiveness of the teaching and learning as it was last year. There are 5 different pieces of information I'm going to talk with you about. We're going to talk about the first 2 are based on state test scores. So Ohio State tests and end of course, that's what OST and EOC. The big difference there is OSTs are for elementary and middle school. At the high school, they call them end of course tests because they're specific to a course. So we're going to talk about the percentages of students who were proficient or higher on each of those. I'm also going to show you what the performance index is for the district this year. We'll talk about how that compares to last year. We're going to look at Acadians for the elementary school. That is a reading, a reading assessment.
I'm going to show you our SAT scores from our 11th graders, and we're going to talk about one specific piece of information, which was a new program this year on our middle school reading intervention class that we did this year. So, first up, state test scores, lots of numbers here. This is just a screenshot from the Secure Data Center, and I did I circled all of our results for this year. This is just the percentage of students who are proficient or higher. They are organized by grade level, so it starts with third grade at the top and works down to high school. And we have language arts and then math. In 5th grade and 8th grade, you also have science. And then at the high school, they have the different end of course assessments. So you can see here that based on the percent proficient or higher, we have some tests where our students really did very well, and that we're feeling pretty good about where they are in terms of their readiness for the next grade level. There are other areas where we are concerned, where we did not perform as well as we feel like our students could, or as well as we had in the past. So, for example, I think a highlight would be to point out 4th grade math. We were at 78% of our students were proficient or higher. And that is up from 69% last year, 56% the year before. So 4th grade math has done a lot of work, and they've seen the percentage of students who are proficient or higher increase steadily over 3 years. The converse to that, unfortunately, is then 5th grade math, which is an area that most of you know we've been pretty strong in. We were 74%, 82% 2 years ago, down to 63% last year, and then 41% this year. So that is, we're already starting to think through what does that look like for 6th grade math when over half of our students were not on proficient level in 5th grade. So again, lots of information here. I'd say
at 5th grade,
Yeah.
do they typically score low in?
So that's one of the interesting things about this
Yeah.
this setup. So you can see the kids who were in 5th grade math this year, 41.4%. If you look at last school year, you can actually find that group of kids in 4th grade math. So 4th grade math, last year they were at 69.4%. And then the year before that, in 3rd grade, they were at 80.2%. Yeah. So if you were kind of like, well, maybe is this just a group that has struggled with math? Because that's a great question. We always want to ask that question. This is a group of kids that has struggled. They're doing the best that they can. Our teachers are, they're pretty much kind of staying at that same achievement level. We're not happy about it, but that's a different story than we've gone from 80% to 40% in 2 years. So, I think another one that I really want to kind of point out is our high school Algebra 1 at, I believe, 60.8%, which doesn't sound great when you think about 60, but when you think about what that compares to at the state level. Algebra 1 and then our ELA 2, which was at 69.4%. Those are the two tests at high school that our students need to reach a competency score on as to approach graduation from a traditional pathway. So those two, not that they're not all important, but in terms of graduation pathways for our students, that competency score in Algebra 1 and on ELA 2 are really important. And so we're excuse me, encouraged to see that quite a few of our students are on the right path in their Algebra 1 and their ELA 2. Any other questions on this slide?
I'm sure you know where to look as far as why we're scoring,
Yeah, I mean,
why we're trending downward when we were trending upward.
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of the reports that I look at, it does like a multi-year trend of all up, but in a particular subject. And so what we've kind of seen is that we've had a steady march up in our ELA, and we've had so we were kind of struggling in math, and then in 22-23 we saw this huge surge or spike in our math achievement. I don't know if you remember that. And we thought, oh, this is great. It was year one of implementation of new math curriculum materials. We thought we were on the right path. But over the last 2 years, we've seen that drop in our elementary, middle, and high school math averages, not in each individual one, but when you look at it holistically.
I know I've asked this before, but like at the 8th grade graduation, it seemed like at least 30 kids did Algebra 1. Where is their test score reflected?
In the 60.8%.
So they're all taken out of 8th grade math.
Correct, yes. So traditionally, 8th grade math tends to be one of our lower areas because it is only usually 60 to 70% of the cohort, and it's the kids who were not on track for success with Algebra 1 as 8th graders. So yes, you've kind of taken out those kids who were really high achieving in math. They're taking Algebra 1, and so Math 8 does tend to be a little bit lower in terms of proficiency. Anything else? Okay, so this next one is it's 1 year, and it's a proficiency level. I really only pulled this one out because on the state report card, when that comes out in the fall, there's like 6 different boxes. They're all different colored. One of them is achievement. The achievement component on the report card is based on our performance index. It's not based on, what percent we're proficient or higher. They base it on performance index. And essentially what performance index does is there are 5 different categories or 5 different levels that students can score on any of the given tests. So the lowest level is limited. Basic would be above that. Proficient, so when we talk about proficient or higher, we're talking from here up. So proficient, accomplished, and advanced. Now there is this category of advanced plus. That is if a student is whole grade accelerated or subject specific accelerated, and they still score advanced, you get a little bit of extra credit for them. So it's a separate category. And essentially what you get down here at the bottom is you take your percentage of students who scored limited on a test, and that multiplier is 0.3. So you get 0.3 of a point essentially for every student who scores limited. You get 0.6 of a point if they score basic. You get a perfect 1 if they are proficient. If they score accomplished, you get 1.1. Advanced, 1.2. And then for those students who are subject or grade accelerated and still score advanced, you get 1.3. So all of these get multiplied and you get the performance index. So our performance index for as a district this year was 84.16. Last year at this time, our performance index was 84.04. So even though some are up, some are down, some are all over the place, when you look at the whole picture, our performance index is almost exactly where we were last year at this time. So in terms of anticipating the report card achievement component, it's going to be the same as it was last year. Any questions about that? I know that's a lot of math, but I think it's an important one.
The answer to this question is fine if we don't know, but the weight of the tests, why is it the way it is? The 0.3, the 0.6, the 1, the 1.1.
That was a legislative decision at the state level.
Seems like we should be
Years ago.
rewarded more.
Is the weight of each test the same as it was last year?
Yes. Yeah, these weights have been consistent for probably a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's I don't know if it's an ethical question, but it's certainly a question as to why there's 0.4 of a difference between a student scoring basic and proficient and only 1/10 of a difference between proficient and accomplished and 1/10. So for whatever reason, when the law was written, there was bigger emphasis maybe or more importance placed for districts to focus on getting kids to this proficient 1 point than there was for pushing them above that. Anything else on this one? Okay. All right. Elementary Acadians reading scores, this one's a little bit friendlier because there are a lot less numbers. And, of course, you just saw some state test scores in language arts for 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. But we still do administer the Acadience reading assessment for all of our students in grades K, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, even though they take a state test at these grade levels. And what you're looking at here is the percentage of students who at the beginning of the year were on track. So, you know, the colors of Acadience, they're green or blue. At the beginning of the year, so I say fall of 24, but that was like late August, early September. It's very early in the school year. And then in spring of 25 is usually the last couple of weeks of May, so it really is the end of the school year. So some huge celebration here is that we had 57% of our kindergartners at the beginning of the year who were on track. At the end of the year, that had moved up to 69%. So that learning experience the kids had this year moved 12% of our kids to on track who were not that when they came to us. First grade, we started out at 60%. We were down to 57 at the end of the year, so we were down 3%. Second grade went from 59 down to 54, so back 5. Third grade went from 55% in the fall up to 64% in the spring, so we moved forward 9% in that grade level. Fourth grade, again, a little bit of a slide from 65 down to 62. And then fifth grade started out the year 44% proficient, finished the year at 52%, so they moved up 8. However, you know, being who I am, I look at this and that's 48% of our kids that are going to go to middle school that are not reading on grade level. So there's a lot that can be done for these kids to move those. But again, huge win here. When we get them, they are, you know, as raw can be, right? I mean, they come into kindergarten, they don't. You fill in the blank, they don't. And so to move them forward 12%, if we can figure out how to sustain that momentum at first grade and second grade, that would really be, that'd be the magic, right? Get the kids through those early literacy, get them reading on grade level. That really opens doors. Okay. Questions about this at all? Okay. All right, so let's, I guess, go to the other end of the building. SAT scores. So 11th graders in Ohio either take the ACT or SAT. And so we got our results for that. I think the one thing I do want to point out about this was the first year that the state basically said, hey, if parents want to opt their kid out of this test, they can totally opt them out. And so when we look at our results, we did have some families, not a lot, but some families who opted their children out of the SAT. But lots of other districts, well, I'm sure all other districts in the state of Ohio who administer the SAT also had some students who opted out. So where in the past we were looking at almost every student in 11th grade, now we're looking at probably about 80 to 85% of our students. And so our total overall score, the average was a 952 out of the max 1600. And then at the state level, the average SAT score was a 991. So we were below by what? Oh boy, I should have done that. 38. 39? Did I do that right? Okay. Thanks. Funny story, we were exactly that same percent below the state average this time last year. So they were different numbers, but we were that same percent below. Our reading and writing scores, our average score there was a 486 compared to the state at 502. So we were 16% below. Last year at this time we were 23% below. So our reading and writing score on the SAT compared to the state has increased. Unfortunately, not the same story in math. Our average was a 466. The state average is a 489. So last year at this time, so we're 23% below. Last year at this time, we were only 15% below. So we slid back in math. We jumped forward a little bit in our reading and writing and slid back in our math score. Any questions on that?
That seems a trend similar to the other test.
Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, it is a trend. Okay.
Trends can be changed.
They can. Okay, and then this one I just wanted to highlight. That's not a whole lot of data here, but we did try something this year that was a little bit outside of the box. We moved Peggy Lang and out of teaching, a core ELA 6 class all day long, and Peggy did different groups of reading intervention, and she used different evidence and research-based reading intervention programs with those students. They were grouped based on reading assessment data, so their needs. We had quite a few students in middle school, which I know might sound strange, but they really still needed help with connecting letters and sounds and blending letter sounds together to read words. And so she provided whatever that intervention was for kids who were below level. We had 33 kids who were 6th graders last year that started out in the fall. 10 of those kids, either at mid-year or at the end of the year, were on level, so they've graduated out. So they're still 23, but she was able to move 10 up to grade level. 18 7th graders started in the fall. 3 of those kids are now on level, so we still have 15, but we were able to move 3 of those kiddos to on grade level. And then 18 8th graders, 5 of those are now reading on grade level, so 13 left. We know that. They're moving into the high school. We've got a plan for that. And in total, for all 3 grade levels, we had 69 students at the beginning of the year in those reading intervention classes. And we were able to move 18 of those kids to reading on grade level. It's 26% of those kids, which, especially once they're in middle school and they're behind, they're not just a little bit behind, they're really behind. So this was some really heavy lifting and a big celebration, I think, for the middle school, for Mrs. Lang, and for our district, that we were able to move these kids back to on level in their reading.
So this is going to continue?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a really great thing. I do have a question.
Yeah.
Looking at 1st grade and 2nd grade, where reading is so important that they get it right then.
Yeah.
Do we as a school retain kids who are really struggling to repeat 1st grade to get those necessary skills before they move on to 2nd, or are we moving them on to 2nd grade, hoping the 2nd grade teacher can get to them?
It's a great question. I can't fully answer that question. Annie would know whether or not any students have been retained, or if they have, what percent that is. I will tell you that we aren't retaining 30% of our, or 40% of our students that aren't on track in reading, right? But what is done is, students aren't on track at the end of 1st grade. When they come in and they start 2nd grade, the elementary does something called Bulldog Breakout, which is 35 minutes of the day per grade level. So 1st grade has a 35-minute time period that is 1st grade Bulldog Breakout. And they essentially, during that 35 minutes, do what Peggy is doing at the middle school, where kids, it doesn't matter whose homeroom they're in, if these kids need more practice with letter sound correspondence and they need some really simple 3-letter words and they're working on those early phonics skills, they go with a teacher for 35 minutes a day and that's what they work on. In addition to, not in replace of, their normal 1st grade or 2nd grade or 3rd grade language arts experience, it's outside of that, so that they're not missing that grade level content, they're getting it in addition. So yeah, they probably do, for the most part, get moved on, but with that Bulldog Breakout, reading intervention, focused, mixing the kids up, moving them around based on what they need. Anything else? Okay, that's all I have. Thanks, Nick.
The last thing I wanted to mention, and we could spend forever talking about this budget cycle and what it means for school districts and what it means for all kinds of organizations across the state. But House Bill 335, probably the thing that would affect our district and be most interesting to this board. House Bill 335 proposes the end of inside millage. So, I mean, regardless of how a school district would be using those inside mills, if that would make its way into the final budget proposal that gets approved, there would be no more inside millage collected by this district. And based on the materials that we've been sent from all our professional organizations, In tax year '24, that number was close to $1 million in inside millage. Doesn't just affect schools, of course. It's going to affect cities and municipalities across the state. The only group that is not affected would be townships. So,
That's interesting. I mean, because how it's collected is based on your jurisdiction. So townships have the broadest jurisdiction as far as collect taxing districts. So do we.
yeah. Yeah, I should have also mentioned counties are in that spider web too. So counties will lose out on inside millage as well. Now, there's all manner of other things in House Bill 335 that I would say any one of the proposals in House Bill 335 would be difficult for school districts, and it would be nice to concentrate and see what life is like under any one of those provisions, but they're all going to happen at the same time. So I think, for this board and for our community, the inside millage piece is the one thing that's going to affect immediately our school district if passed. And when exactly, if it's with the next, with this tax year, I don't know the mechanism of that yet, but that's, and probably you're wondering, how could you have not heard about this? I think it's only been discussed over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's just all of a sudden has come up. Even the folks at OSBA and VASA and OASBO are all kind of surprised. This wasn't even a discussion about a month ago. So, yeah.
I've been kind of keeping tabs on it, and it's ever evolving. You never know what they're going to come up with.
Do they usually get the budget, is it by the end of this month?
It's supposed to be by the end of the month, so it's in conference committee right now. And I think they've got until the end of the month to get it to the government. So it's happening right now. And our professional organizations have encouraged, community members, school people, board members to reach out. They've said that, hey, form letters and templates, they're not working right now. How it's going to affect you, how it's going to affect your school district, that's the thing that folks are listening to. If it's a template or some kind of a form letter, it's probably not even getting read right now. So, got about a couple weeks to really push for advocacy for public schools, and this is just the tip of the iceberg here. There's all kinds of other things that are going to affect all other school districts in the state, some way. Inside millage is the biggest thing for us.
It's big.
I'll call my representative.
And on that cheery note, that is all I have left. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
I do not.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Treasurer's report. Approval of Board of Education minutes, May 19th, 2025, regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Ms. King-Persons?
Yes.
Ms. Brunel?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. B, approval of May financial report. Do I have a motion to approval of the May 2025 financial report?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brunel?
Did you want to do, did you have a presentation?
I can go over
If
it.
you don't mind just going over it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in there. Yeah, I'm gonna take that. So, I mean, these are just like all the obvious budget actuals that we have from, just a comparison from the fiscal year '23, fiscal year '24. just to kind of see what we budgeted for and where we actually are on the general fund balance, and then we have the revenue, and then the expenditures, so that's pretty generic material. The biggest thing on here is the budget to actuals. I did my very best to try to interpret how she, the buyer treasurer, did her May forecast, and so those numbers on the projections are my best interpretation of what she had to date for May versus our actuals. And most significantly, I would just point out the variances on, let's see, 1.06, all other operating revenue. That is just a Medicaid reimbursement that was not anticipated. It was quite substantial. And so that was pretty large. So that's why you have that almost a little over 12.5% variance there. And then if you go down to the expenditures, the greatest expenditure obviously is still this purchase services, but we are getting 2 refunds from the ESCs, so one from Montgomery County for roughly $121,000 of unused services, and then one from Miami County ESC for roughly $82,000. So those will be refunded as a reduction of expenditure. So you'll see a reduction in those purchase services. And then other than that, there's nothing too much to go over. We have our general cash summary report, which we do have that negative balances down towards the bottom. Those are our PCRs, those have already been put in. We just have to wait to receive those from the state. And then our 300, we have a request for a transfer to get that negative balance taken care of before closing. Investment summary, pretty typical. The guy that looks at it not here. But to the best of my knowledge, that's been done. And then for cash receipts, we did receive, we're on the positive, for roughly $20,000, almost $21,000 in revenue for cash receipts. And these are all of our disbursements for the month of May. And where we stand with those.
I don't think so. When does the new revenue from the income tax come on? When do we start receiving that?
We don't start receiving from the newest
Right.
tax. I don't think we start receiving that until our second half
Second half
of
of,
fiscal year 26.
okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Okay, Ms. Brumbaugh,
Yes.
Dr. Engelmann,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons,
Yes.
Mr. Duhas.
Yes. Other special reports, MUEA.
Teachers would like to thank West Milton Dental for the lovely lunch at the end of the school year. It was much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you to West Milton.
Yep,
OPSI.
nothing from OPSI this evening.
6, agenda confirmation, A, additions and deletions to agenda.
This is just a minor thing, but in new business, letter N, the title of the resolution should have said fiscal year 2026, Montgomery County ESC pass-through agreement. I think when the agenda went out, it said fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
So here in real time, I've changed that to fiscal year 2026.
Okay. B, approval of the agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
So. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Dean Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. 7, old business. Do we have any old business? A, new business, fiscal year 2025 final appropriations. Recommend approval of the fiscal year 2025 final appropriations as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. B, fiscal year 2026 temporary appropriations. Recommend approval to adopt temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2026 as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. C, submission of renewal levy. Recommend approval of the following resolution declaring the necessity of levying a renewal tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation and requesting the county auditor to certify matters in connection therewith. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And just to clarify, although it says 10 mil, the actual millage is collected. Do you know that? I know it's pretty low, like 2.
I think it's 1 something.
Is
It's
it-
actually collecting a,
That's, yeah.
it was voted at 3.9 mils, and I think it's collecting at 1.5. I'd have to,
Yeah, 1.46.
Almost on the dot.
Yeah.
Okay. We just want to note that it's important that this passes so we can stay on track to,
Our 5-year plan.
for the plans and on resolving or the bonds for the district, for the building. Do I have a motion, please? Or, I got it read. Did I have a motion and a second?
Yes.
Yeah, roll call, please.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. D, administrative contract. Recommend employing the following administrative personnel. Vaughn Ray, special education coordinator, effective August 1st, 2025 through July 31st, 2027. Days 203, annual salary 83,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. E, transfers.
Thumbs up.
Now I put the name, okay, that makes sense. E, transfers. Treasurer Solomon recommends approval of the following transfers. 1, transfer $65,000 from General Fund 001 to Athletics Fund 300. 2, transfer $92,350 from PI Fund 003 to the Maintenance Fund 034 in July 2025 for fiscal year 2026 per OFCC requirement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Blumenbach?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Nicholson?
Yes.
Mr. Beehas?
Yes. F, transfers. Recommend authorizing the treasurer to reappropriate the transfer funds to various codes to eliminate deficit figures for the year ending June 30th, 2025.
This is language that my mentor told me I should add when looking at the end of the year so we can adjust as needed.
Okay. That's fine. As far as, I don't have a,
Oh, yeah, I
see
know,
what you're
because
saying.
rookie mistake. I did not copy and post that into my new item. there.
Okay, can we just scratch it in then?
Yeah, I'll write it in.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hankelman?
Yes.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. Blanket and super blanket thresholds, recommend approval of thresholds for blanket and super blanket fiscal officers certificates set at $250,000 and $500,000 respectively. Do I have a motion?
So
Second. Cheyenne, could you explain this one?
So, to my knowledge, it's something that's been kind of translated from year to year for auditor purposes. This is just something that they like to see, is what I'm told.
Okay. To transfer for audit purposes.
Well, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the blanket or the
just-
super blanket?
I just didn't understand the blanket
I
and
don't- I
super
don't know.
blanket. I don't understand that
That means
verbiage.
So,
It's like, I don't know.
I asked my mentor about this, and she said that it is not something that's necessarily common, but maybe something that the auditor prefers to see. So for past practices, since we have done it in the past, I kept it on there.
Okay. Is that so like, you're able to do it, like you're certified to do all this?
Yeah, and
And
like,
it shows,
basically giving us a
Auditor.
limit, like we can't just like appropriate like X amount of funds beyond a unreasonable amount, like it kind of gives you a limit to your blankets, I suppose. I'm learning too.
Well, I'd like to table this for the time being, just to, I want to research a little more. I vaguely remember, approving this last year, and I just wanted, if you could get a more detailed explanation for us, maybe email it to us so that we can consider it maybe there's no time constraints. This isn't going to create a bind or anything for you
No.
at this point? Okay. I'll make a motion to table it.
so moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
yes.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. H, advances. Recommend advancing funds for the general fund to state and federal grant accounts for the purpose of covering any negative balance in anticipation of receiving project cash requests in fiscal year 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. And I apologize for not being more proactive. I intended to reach out to you after I read this, but it was,
And
it-
that's totally fine. I didn't want to take it off for the purposes, like if we needed it, and I reached out to our county auditor regarding it, and she said to move up to the state level and talk to them about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Well, questions?
I, student activity budgets, recommend authorization and operation of the following Fund 200 student activity accounts for the 2025-2026 school year, and further approve the related purpose statements and annual budgets for fiscal year 2026. Student ACT, student council, middle school, student, assuming that's count. Is that student account for National Honor Society?
I think student activity fund?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It's a student activity organization.
Okay. High school choir, student activity musical high school, student activity Bulldog Pride, class of 2027, student activity varsity M, student activity yearbook high school, student activity quiz team, student activity FFA, Student Managed BPA, MD CTC STEM, Tri-M Music Honor Society. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. J, Student Athletic Accounts. Recommend authorization and operation of the following fund, 300 student athletic accounts for the 2025-26 school year, and further approve the related purpose statements and annual budgets for fiscal year 2026. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. K, student and instructional fees. Recommend approval of the student fees for 2025-26 academic year. See attached. A, elementary school. B, middle school. C, high school. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. L, lunch prices. Recommend approval of meal prices for the 25-26 school year. A, breakfast, all students, $1.70 full pay, 30 cents reduced pay or free if qualified. B, lunch, K through 8, $3.20 full pay, 40 cents reduced pay or free if qualified. 9 through 12, $3.40 full pay, 40 cents reduced pay or free if qualified. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is that the same as last year?
Yep.
No change for breakfast or lunch.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. M, alternative makeup of calamity days. Recommend approval of the resolution adopting a calamity day alternative plan for the 2025-26 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second. Did you vote?
We did not. So we've got, for now, until the state decides to increase the number of required hours, which I think is being discussed, we typically have been able to continue with the traditional 5 days. We're not really requiring students to do anything while they're out, but this allows us to reclaim, if we have a particularly bad winter, this allows us to reclaim 3 days and count them in our required hours.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Ms. Brumbaugh?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. In fiscal year 2025, Montgomery, this is where it should be 2026.
26, yep.
Fiscal year 2026, Montgomery County ESC pass-through agreement. Recommend approval of contract between the Milton-Union Exempted Village School District and the Montgomery County Educational Service Center, beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending July 30th, 2026. Services will be provided and billed for the 2025-26 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Brad, so all of these services on here, this is what they offer us.
That's what they could offer
That's what they,
us.
could offer us.
And then-
But we are not using
Correct,
everyone, but.
correct. They have, and I don't know what you're looking at on
Oh,
yours,
I was just looking at everything.
but they, they give us along with that initial agreement with, hey, here's a couple columns of services that they could provide us. They tell us what we're actually using, and so that's how they arrive at a
That's their
estimated
amount.
price, yeah,
And these are services that the Miami County ESC does not provide.
correct. As of right now, they do not. It's hearing, audiology, low vision, orientation and mobility, and physical therapy.
Okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kimball?
Yes.
Mrs. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes. Oh, donations. I recommend accepting the following donations. $1,000 from an anonymous donor for the Charles Tomlin Scholarship. End of school year staff lunch from West Milton Family Dental, Dr. Steve Pearson. And $4,000 donation from the DFW for student fees and the military wall. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kimball?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes. Thanks to those who are identified and unidentified for the donations. P, activity fees. Recommend continuing the activity fee for the 2025-2026 school year to offset Board of Education costs for salaries, benefits, and transportation. This fee will not affect other expenses associated with participating in these activities. This annual fee will be capped at $400 per family for athletics and $400 per family for co-curricular activities. Fees are as follows. A, high school extracurricular athletics, first and second season, $100, third season and thereafter, $50. B, middle school extracurricular athletics, first and second season, $90, third season and thereafter, $45. C, high school co-curricular, band, show choir, color guard, winter guard, first and second season, $100, third season and thereafter, $50. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Kimball?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes. Q, Ohio High School Internship IT Agreement. Recommend approval of an agreement between the Milton-Union Exempted Village School District and the Strategic Ohio Council for Higher Education to provide intern services under the Ohio High School Internship IT Intermediary Grant. All services will be performed from May 27, 2025 to August 31st, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So how did we get this grant?
This is the third year now we've used this grant. It was brought to our attention that the two previous summers, you can hire high school students to help in any business can do this. Help them out, and through a grant program, we will be reimbursed 100%. This year, it changed to 75% reimbursement.
Okay. But you have to reapply every year for this? Or,
We have to send an email and say we'd like to use these students, here's their names. They hire them, they pay them.
okay.
They bill us monthly for the cost, and then in December, when they complete their grant paperwork from whoever provides the grant, they send us a check reimbursing us for any work done.
Is this
So they're not school employees per se.
Yeah.
Does this primarily help during the summer to get the
It's
devices
Yep.
and everything ready for the school year?
It's the library is swarmed.
Yep.
And
I've
that's
been there a couple times and there's piles and piles. of
piles and
them.
piles. 1,500 devices laying around, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Ms. Kimball?
Yes.
Dr. Hinkleman?
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons?
Yes.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes. Our disposal of books, recommend disposal of the language of literature, different varieties of Frankenstein and Romeo and Julio. Is that,
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
I read that and I'm like, okay. Books unviable for classroom use. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkelmann,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz,
Yes.
Ms. Brumbault.
Yes.
Apologies. Order there.
You're fine. Consent calendar, recommend approval of all matters listed under the consent calendar. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Dr. Hinkelmann,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons,
Yes.
Ms. Brumbault,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz.
Yes. Nine, other authorizations, resolutions, etc. A, Milton-Union Public Library fiscal year 2026 tax budget. Recommend adoption of the 2026 Milton-Union Public Library budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Brumbault,
Yes.
Ms. Kim Parsons,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkelmann,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz.
Yes. B, handbooks. Recommend adoption of the following handbooks for usage throughout the Milton-Union exempted village school district effective with the 2025-26 school year. Athletic handbook and training rules, 2025-26. Bus driver handbook, 2025-26. Classified handbook, 2025-26. District student parent handbook, 2025-26. Faculty certificated employee handbook, 2025-26. ES student handbook, 2025-26. High school, middle school student handbook, 2025-26. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Kim Parsons,
Yes.
Dr. Hinkelmann,
Yes.
Ms. Brumbault,
Yes.
Mr. Diaz.
Yes. 10, board member reports. A, legislative and student achievement. Linda?
I think we already talked a lot about what's most important in legislation right now, which is seeing how the fiscal year 26-27 budget comes out. They did change the carryover balance, what they're proposing right now, that we can keep up from 30% to 50% though, which is actually, would be good for us, since we were right at the 30%. We'll just see what happens next month.
That's right. And then the inside millage curveball, so that doesn't help things, but, you know, maybe that'll change, you never know. Okay, B, policy update, myself and Lori, I don't have anything, do you have anything, Lori? C, building and transportation, that would be myself and Justin. Since Justin's not here, I'm going to, I've had some conversations with Mr. Brackman over busing, and I'm sure there's some people that are highly, we're eager to know more about what busing is going to look like for the start of next year. And discussions we have 7 bus drivers actively trained.
That are in the process. We have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 that have started the process. Now, becoming a bus driver is a long process. That process they've started is background checks, physicals, and drug screens. That's where we have people start. Because if you can't pass either of those, there's no sense in doing the other training. So some of those folks are already done. One of them is signed up for pre-service class. The other ones, we're waiting on the results for some of those. So we have a good amount in the works to be hopefully report as bus driver.
You
But-
told us, sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just saying, but to be completely transparent, it takes time
It does.
to get these bus drivers
Yep.
certified to be able to drive the bus, to
If they're
pick up
start-
kids from, on the routes.
Yes.
So, logistically, it is probably not gonna happen that we're gonna be able to decrease the route circumference at the start of the year. However, that could change as the year goes on and discussions were had that may occur.
Correct.
It's not that we're not actively, and we've been, ever since the passage of the levy, we have been actively pursuing additional drivers.
We have two positions that are actually posted on the consortium now for bus drivers, and they have been all spring. We do have some folks that have applied for those who do have driving experience, which it's a lot easier when you've already done the long process. We have reached out to those folks actually today to see their intentions. So hopefully, we can get some people that are already trained as well, because that will speed up the process. But yes, it is correct.
Just to be completely transparent, it is on, we are actively pursuing hiring, and once we can reduce the radius, we will reduce the
And I
radius.
think that if, these folks that we've counted who have started the process, if they continue and, they are persistent on doing that stuff, I would say even early fall, maybe weeks into the school year.
So they're persistent, maybe the 1st of October.
Yeah, I would say sometime in September, 1st of October.
Once they get their CDL, it's not like you just say, here's a bus.
No.
Fees. Go get pickup.
So there's the pre-service class, which is 16 hours, and then you do have to go and get your permit, and there's the permit and 3 endorsements that you have to test out at the B&B for. Once you get that, then there's 30 hours behind the wheel of training with it, an OBI, which is one of our people training them to drive the bus. And once they've logged all those hours, then they can go and take their CDL test. Once they pass that, and then we kind of acclimate them. Jodelle will ride and help, because now there are 50 screaming kids behind you. So acclimate with the route and a little bit of more of making sure they're comfortable with what they're doing and, their task. So it is quite the process. So it's not just hire somebody, here you go. There's a little bit more to it when they're starting fresh as a bus driver.
Do we have people that we could ride with them this summer if they get to that point?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep, we have 2 OBIs. We actually have another one who's going to train to be an OBI, to help maybe speed up that process for the availability to continue to train people. So,
And to compound things, we had several retirements.
correct. We had 2 retire in the transportation department. One was a van driver, one was a bus driver, right? So,
That,
yeah. So, but, yeah.
Well, let's hope.
They move through.
Yes, yep, and they seem to be.
They'll stay.
A lot of these people were at the test drive event. So 6 of the 7 were at the test drive event. So they have,
That was a success then.
yes.
So that was a really good thing to do.
We had, I think, 9 or 10 at the event that test drove a bus. 2 of them they said they weren't interested at the time, and the other 2 were still kind of on the fence on what they were going to do. So, but the other ones they've pursued to get that background check, the drug screen, and the physical. So, now it's just getting them trained.
other than that, I don't think there's anything else.
We're moving right along on, summer maintenance, cleaning classrooms, buffing and re-waxing floors, and, some of the more tedious maintenance projects that we weren't able to do, throughout the school year. Nothing, out of the ordinary. in the building.
Thank you. Moving on, D, MVCTC, Jim Albaugh, did you get any report from Jim this month?
No, I just attached the May Board of Education minutes from MVCTC. Looks like a pretty standard business for May for that.
E, Milton-Union Education Foundation, Jess?
Well, we had the Bulldog Golf Classic. I was not able to attend, being at the state track meet. But anyway, Brad was there, Linda covered for me. I'll let these two talk about it, but a great success. We, as far as profit, we were just a little under 8,000. Some years we've made about 15,000. Past couple of years we've been making like 8 to 9. But still, it's a great fundraiser, and
You say it was shy of 8,000?
just shy of 8, yeah. And so what that money that will go to is in the fall, either September or October. I think the teachers will submit their mini classroom grant requests, and then as a committee, we go through them, and then in October, we'll award that money. But Linda and Brad, you guys can talk about the golf outings since you were there.
I think it went really well. We could have had more teams play, but we could have had more teams play. I think we can always have probably that Friday. Next year, 2026, I'm pretty sure we can have that Friday as many years as we want. Maybe we need, as a foundation, need to look at having this event on a Saturday and see if that increases the number of teams we can get. But that's probably something for the group to discuss and consider more than anything else. So there's competition with some other golf outings. It's a really good fundraiser, so it's not surprising that some other folks are trying to, help themselves through doing one.
I think we need to consider, as a school district, a consideration for each entity and how one event may impact another event, and create a calendar, some sort of calendar, central calendar for that. Because I'll be honest with you, I was kind of discouraged that all of a sudden there's several golf outings that flanked this one, and this one's been going on for how many years? And I'm not trying to take away from those, but the importance of this funding to the school and to the educators in the school, it's important, and I just think that we need to really look at that.
Yeah, there've been some other golf outings, but but they've been really careful. I don't know if it maybe just worked out this way, but they were later in the summer, and it wasn't, we weren't competing with one another. But it seemed like all of a sudden, yeah.
Problem is we're a small community, and everybody's competing for the same sponsors, the
Correct.
same, and as having a business, and I get tired of being asked over and over.
Probably overwhelming for business owners.
Well, everybody only has so much money that you can give,
Right.
but people want to give.
Right.
There's only so much.
Very much, very true. So something to consider.
But having said that, these foursomes come through the line for lunch, and then they say all kind of, hey, we've had a really good time today. And then, they'll stick around, like we're cleaning up and leaving, and they're still, hanging out, talking. So it was pretty clear the people that were there had a good time playing. So it was, not to bury the lead, it was a good event.
Yeah,
And,
well, I'm sure.
and our folks have gotten really good at running a really quality golf outing too. So.
Sure.
I think we had maybe 22 teams.
That sounds about right.
Total?
Yep.
We can hold 31.
Is that down from?
A little bit.
Last year, did we have 22 or 27?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
26, it was a few
Just
more.
a few.
Yeah. I remember when it used to generate a lot more revenue.
Yeah, it kind of seemed like that was maybe pre-COVID, and then,
Yeah, you're probably right.
we just couldn't get it back. But
Enough about
we'll get
that.
back there.
Sounds good. Anything else for
No,
Ed Foundation?
no.
G, Audit and Finance Committee, Justin and Lori. Justin's not here. Lori, you have anything?
I don't.
Okay.
Cheyenne, do we have anything?
G, Facility Complex Committee, that'd be myself. I can say, I mean, I don't have much update. I mean, I'm a little discouraged to learn that someone decided to drive on the practice soccer fields and do donuts and tear up the sod. So if anybody out there knows who that might have done that, wants to report it to the Westmoreland Police Department or myself or Mr. Bratman, we would gladly like to learn who that was, because it's done a considerable amount of damage. But other than that, as far as facilities, everything's looking good out there. You're fully staffed now for your summer help, or pretty
Yep.
close.
Yep.
So. All right, then moving on to board announcements. 12 upcoming meetings. WMUT meeting Thursday, July 19th, 2025, at 6 p.m. at the Union Township Building. And then next regular board meeting, Monday, July 21st, 2025, at 6 p.m. here in the board conference room. 13, executive session. Recommend approval to adjourn to executive session for purposes authorized under Board of Education Policy 0166 and ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, and compensation of an employee or official, ORC 121.22G4, to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning compensation or other terms, conditions of employment, and ORC 121.22G5 for a matter required to be kept confidential by federal law or rules or state statutes. There will be no action taken after the board exits executive session. Invitees would be Dr. Ritchie, Curtis,
Katie?
Katie, Cheyenne. Anybody else?
No, no, sir.
No. Do I have a motion? Roll call, please.
Dr. Hamblin?
Yes.
Ms. Henderson?
Yes.
Ms. Brindle?
Yes.
Ms. Diaz?
Yes.